Despite playing just a few hours of Elden Ring's upcoming Shadow of the Erdtree expansion, I can already tell that it's shaping up to be one of the best games releasing this year. My nearly 4-hour hands-on session with Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree began by touching Miquella's lifeless hand, hanging out of a giant egg at the site in which players defeated half-brother Mohg, the Lord of Blood, at Mohgwyn Palace in the base game. From here, I was transported to the Land of Shadow, the world of the new expansion. From Software has perfected the art of grandly unveiling a new area, with the epic reveal of Leyndell, royal capital, in the base game springing to mind as an example. But the one you experienced very early on in Shadow of the Erdtree might be the best one yet, and it sets the tone for the rest of the adventure. Those who've already played Elden Ring will be familiar with how the base game starts you off in Limgrave after the tutorial section, an area which feels full of life, with its green and vibrant scenery being home to NPCs, soldiers, nature, and a whole host of creatures and monsters. The opening area of the new world, being set in a graveyard, feels strikingly barren in comparison, with only a few enemies scattered around among a swathe of ghost-like gravestones in a large open area. Once you progress a bit further on, enemies become a lot more common, including a huge walking cauldron of flame that acts as your first major foe, similar to the Tree Sentinel in the base game. It's certainly unsettling and adds to the expansion's dark and mysterious tone. Once I broke away from this area, I found hidden tunnels filled with lava, grassy Limgrave style areas, dark mystical forests, and two major castle locations, Ballarat Castle and Castle Estis, home to the expansion's opening 2 boss fights. That's a lot of variety. I was limited to only specific areas within the Land of Shadow during my Shadow of the Erdtree preview, which is roughly the size of Limgrave, but the world map, most of which was somewhat hidden, indicated that there was a lot more to be explored. If I had to guess, I'd say the new world could be a little smaller than the size of Limgrave and Caelid combined, and around double the size of the area I was able to explore in my preview, which is very exciting. During my hands-on session, I was able to select from one of 3 classes, with 2 of them being brand new as part of the expansion, Knight and Sorcerer, alongside the already present Warrior class. You can, of course, carry over all of your trusted weapons from your playthrough of the base game into Shadow of the Erdtree, but if you fancy a shiny new weapon, there are around 100 new weapons set to be introduced in this expansion, alongside 8 entirely new weapon classes. I spent most of my 4 hours rocking the Warrior and Knight classes using the new Milady weapon. Its attacks are very much martial arts inspired, and it has a neat weapon skill called Wing Stance, which lets you unleash a devastating and exceptionally choreographed pattern of slashes, which is addictingly powerful. Other new weapon classes include Throwing Blade, which functions exactly as described, and Beast Claws, which again are literally beast claws you can equip to scratch away at your enemies that also deal added bleed damage alongside physical. Speaking of fights, the difficulty of the enemies I ran into during my jaunt across the Land of Shadow seemed a lot tougher than in Elden Ring, significantly so, and this definitely didn't feel like a skill issue. But to somewhat compensate for this, From Software has introduced a new buffing mechanic which revolves around Scadutree fragments. When these new items are activated at a site of grace, locations that act as a checkpoint within the game, it raises your Scadutree blessing, which in turn empowers your character's attack and attack negation or defense, no matter which weapon you have equipped. These buffs can be stacked too, so the more Scadutree fragments you find and activate, the more powerful your Scadutree blessing buff will be. There's also a similar buff for your Spirit Ashes too, with this mechanic working identically but with revered Spirit Ash items. I wasn't able to confirm the exact stat and value increases, but considering I had activated 3 Scadutree fragments and 1 revered Spirit Ash during my playtime, I was still finding it tough, so you're definitely going to want to stack as many as you possibly can. But there is a catch, because Scadutree Blessing and Revered Spirit Ash Blessing buffs are only active in the Land of Shadow, so if you walk back into any of the Elden Ring base game areas, which you can easily do, your Scadutree Blessing stat won't have any impact. I was able to reach both of the boss battles on offer in this Shadow of the Erdtree preview session, although I only beat 1, and I'm so glad I did, because the design, attack patterns and overall difficulty of these battles was really impressive. The first major boss is Divine Beast Dancing Lion at Ballarat Castle, not to be confused with the Divine Beast of Zelda Breath of the Wild fame, and it's a pretty accurate description. It's a literal undead lion clad in a suit of armor that can not only pounce but can also fly around to boot. It's a stunning fight and a real challenge, with the divine beast able to hurt you from close and long range, and there's such a variety of movesets, particularly in the second half of the battle, when it unveils devastating lightning attacks. A lot of blood, sweat and tears were shed during our epic clash, but it was non-stop fun, particularly if you're the kind of masochist who loves Souls-likes, which I'll assume you are if you're watching this video. The second major boss I took on but failed to best was Twin Knight Relena, the main boss fight for Castle Estis, and it was a lot harder. Unfortunately, the B-roll we were given doesn't show this boss, so I'll have to describe it for you. But if I told you that she was almost like a hybrid of Royal Knight Loretta of Carrier Manor and Melania, Blade of Miquella at Miquella's Haligtree, that should give you some idea as to her difficulty. She had the magic of Loretta and the swordship of Miquella. It was a really difficult boss fight, but I just got beaten to the buzzer, unfortunately. These are only 2 of the 10 major bosses players can encounter in Shadow of the Erdtree, with some of them being optional, but that's still mightily impressive and highlights just how large this expansion is set to be. If you loved Elden Ring, I think it's fair to say that you're going to love Shadow of the Erdtree. And look, if you're new to Elden Ring, I'm actually pretty darn envious, because not only will you have the chance to explore the vast and wonderful world of the Lands Between, but you'll also have the Land of Shadow to explore too. I barely scratched the surface of everything that Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree has to offer, but I was spellbound, even with the scant few hours I had to play it. Clear your calendars, people, because From Software is about to drop another banger in 2024. That's it for my hands-on preview of Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Let us know in the comment section below if you're excited to play this expansion in just a few weeks' time, and let us know if you have any questions. I'll try my best to answer them down in the comment section below. And as ever, if you enjoyed the video, why not get subscribed, because we're going to have a lot more where this came from, so keep an eye on our channel over the next few weeks. But that's it from me. We'll see you in the next one.